pews today. Yeah, either go sit over there or Colin, Matt right here. So how's everybody doing this morning? Good, amazing. Are you liking this weather? Yeah, you get out sledding and do anything fun? Alright, well that's what I like to hear. Alright, so today I want to talk to you guys about stories. How many of you like stories? You don't know? I bet you like stories. You like it when mom and dad read you a book? Yeah, see, you like it. You already know how to read, so the doors are the Here, I thought I turned it on and I didn't. So, all right, thank you, Mary Ann. So, why are stories so important to us? What do you think, Evelyn? Okay, so true stories can help us learn some really important things. Trajan? You can read more, and so you can go on adventures, you can explore new places, learn new things. So, why do you think it's important that we learn our Bible stories? So, do you guys remember who we're talking about in our church services? Who? No? Gotta go backwards a little bit. Desmond, do you know who we're talking about? We're talking about God. Yeah, that's always one of the main characters in the Bible stories. Starts with an A. There we go. Alright, so we're talking about Abraham. And why do you think it's important that we tell these stories over and over and we read them over and over? So we can learn more about them, and who do we really learn more about in the process? About God and Jesus, absolutely. And so that's one of the things I want you guys to really spend some time doing this year, because I think a lot of your friends and a lot of other kids are not getting to read some of the Bible stories that you do. And like you said, you can use these Bible stories to learn things about yourselves and about God. And the more you know the stories and the better you know the stories, you can share some of that information with your friends that might be really helpful. Okay? So maybe if your friend's having a really tough time, something's going on in their life, you might be able to share a story with them that might really help them get through that situation. Alright? Or maybe you're going through a tough time, or you're having to make a big decision in your life, and you can read one of the stories and find out how that person made decisions and how they maybe trusted in God, or maybe they didn't listen to God and some things that maybe weren't so good happened. Alright? So to my other young disciples, I think too that it's very important that we encourage this generation and even some perhaps a little older to re-explore the stories of the Bible, because unfortunately, folks, we continue to face a biblical illiteracy problem, and we find more and more people don't understand the Bible stories. Many of us grew up when we've learned these stories since we were little kids, all through these days. But there are many families that don't. Some families don't come to church, some kids don't come to church. When kids do come to church, they come in without having any prior knowledge, and I think it's really our responsibility to teach them these stories. And the reason I encourage us to do that is because when we read these stories, we see the things that God does in the lives of the people. We see the miracles, we see the work, and that allows us to believe. Okay? And so for you adults, one thing I will say is that in our modern age, much of the scholarship, much of the commentary has gone to a very intellectual place when it comes to the Bible stories. And we like to think, well, there's this principle here, or there's this principle here, but it's so divorced from the actuality or the reality of the story that we can begin to lose some of the power that is in those stories. So folks, let us all just come around as a church, continue to tell these stories, that it helps shape our own belief, but that we also provide a strong foundation for these people that we love, but for those families that may not be a part of our church at this time. All right, so will you guys keep reading the stories? Read them with your moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas. And some of the stories are kind of tough, so you might have to ask some questions, okay? Like if there's things you don't understand or things seem really weird, don't be afraid to come and ask somebody if you have questions, all right? All right, let's pray. Then you guys can go back and sit with moms and dads. Dear God, we just thank you for these young disciples, and we thank you for the amazing things you're doing in each one of their lives. Lord, I'm so thankful that you have brought each one of them to this church, and Lord, I just pray that this church would continue to surround them and nurture them. Lord, that we would continue to teach them the important biblical stories, that they may learn more about themselves and continue to learn more about you. Lord, be with them this week as they go about all their activities. Keep them safe and bring them back to us, and keep them growing in your Son's name. Amen. All right.